So, hey guys, welcome to our next session that is on market analysis. So, in today's session, we're going to look at the marketing environment of an organization, which generally consists of internal and external factors that affect how the relationships of a company are with their customers or how a company can serve their customers. So the entire marketing environment is a combination of micro as well as macro environment. So let us look at what exactly micro environment is and what exactly macro environment is and how do we control it, or how can we make sure that our organization benefits in the best way with making the right usage of all the factors in macro and micro environment. So the first thing is micro environment. Every factor that is pretty much within the organization or within the business, which influences the operations and running of the organization, are pretty much called microenvironment. So this pretty much includes everything that influences the functioning of the organization. Things like customers or some government, or things like the operating procedure itself within the company, the suppliers, all of these directly affect the functioning within the organization. So these are called micro marketing environment factors. So let's take a look at a few of them. So one of the first factor is the customer, because we know that every business revolves pretty much around the customer. It's essentially the business's need or the work of the business or the work of the company to make sure that they are fulfilling the customer's needs and wants. So the first thing that always comes up is customer, because customers directly influence any single organization. Depending on their requirements, the organization may change their operating procedure. The organizations may be needing to change their suppliers, may be needing to train their employees in a certain way, or even create advertisements in a certain way. So all of this is essentially by the customers. So they are one of the major micro environment factors. The other factor is employees. Now, these may be employees who work in a retail shop, in a retail part of our organization or our business, or they may be the employee who work in manufacturing as well. So, however, it could be. So, essentially, these employees who may either work in marketing or as retail salespersons, or could be a part of manufacturing as well. These employees need to be trained in the domain that they are working on. These employees need to be motivated to contribute to the organization in the best way as possible. So unless they are trained, unless they are motivated on a constant basis, whether it is financial motivation or anything else, the employees would not be interested in providing the best to the organization, whether it is in the right kind of product or right kind of customer service or whatever it could be. So this is a huge factor again within microenvironment factors. The next factor is suppliers. So every organization needs their raw materials from some suppliers to create finished goods. This is what we know. So it entirely depends on how far a supplier is, how much cost are they requiring to perform the provision of the raw materials, or whether the raw materials provided are of the finest and highest quality, or are they of substandard quality or something like that. All of these are a big factor in the quality of the finished good or quality of the finished product. So suppliers also become a huge micro environment factors. So the next microenvironment factors that you can see are retailers and distributors. So these are the channel partners essentially who make sure that the finished goods or the products of any organization are marketed in the right way and are provided to the retailers who will then provide it to the consumers. So when an organization sells these products over to retailers who then sell it to consumers, the organization needs to market the products in the right way and they need to provide the products to the right retailers. So this also is a huge microenvironment factor. Followed by this, the next part is shareholders. So shareholders invest in a company expecting good returns, essentially. So when a company has the objective to make sure that they treat their shareholders as well as possible in terms of their wealth benefits and maximize their wealth, the shareholders will have better interest in the company and keep investing. So this is a huge part as well. So the next part is competitors, where every organization needs to keep a keen, close eye at their competitors. So whether their competitors are doing a better product or a similar product, or whether their marketing strategy is different, whatever it could be, it's pretty important to know all about it so that our organization also stays in the same level or at least above our competitors and we do not lag behind it. So every organization needs to keep looking at their competitors to make sure that they are also in the recent trends. So the other two microenvironment factors are government and general public. So it could be that there are some policies by the government which may have an influence in marketing strategies. For example, if a company is marketing a certain kind of product, if there are rules on that product, rules on how to market, or rules on things like whether a person can buy it in one shot or whether a person can pay the money later, buy it initially, or whatever all these rules could be. All of them affect how marketing of a product can be done. Whether the marketing has to make sure that it is in line with the government policies as well. And the next thing is the company always has a small responsibility. There is something called a corporate social responsibility to make sure that they provide something beneficial to the society around them. So these are also considered as a part of microenvironment factors. So apart from these, which are directly influential with the company's um, marketing as well as channeling. The other kind of factors that are there are macro environment factors which a company does not have a hold on. So essentially, micro environment factors are these factors which a company has its influence on. It can at least influence it a little bit. Whereas when it comes to macro environmental factors, the organization cannot control or cannot influence these factors a lot. So we most of the times call these factors in short as pestle with LE at the end or EL at the end. So they get divided as political, economic, technological, socio-cultural, environmental, and legal factors. We're going to look at these factors first and understand how they are, which you have already looked at in our previous term as well. And we'll look at a few case studies and examples of how some organizations have these factors associated, which they cannot control sometimes, but sometimes they may be able to influence it a bit. So let's look at these factors in short. So when we talk about the first, that is P for political factors, we can see it depends on the current government policies. So every organization needs to have their own manufacturing policies or supplier based policies or marketing policies, whatever it could be, dependent on the government policy, and they cannot stray away from it whatsoever. So these are something that the organization does not have an influence on irrespective. So something else that it does depend on is the tax policy, how much tax needs to be paid to the government by the organization, what is the labor law, how many hours can people work, or so on per month, per week, or anything like that. And if their working extra is extra pay to be provided, all these become a factor when it comes down to political. So then there are some trade restrictions as well. There is some um, government based localities, in terms of one locality which is based on one government, another locality based on another government. There would be some trade restrictions that products consisting of certain chemicals or certain ingredients could not be sold in the other locality and so on. So there are a lot of such factors that come into play in political factors. So the next thing is economic factors, which depend on a lot of things, like how is the economy of the company going on, what is the current interest rate within the company, is there any inflation, is there any deflation, is the country growing well, is the economic growth good, if some products are to be bought from different countries, then what would be the exchange rate, and how much do people have money to spend, what is the disposable income, if too many people are not employed, they won't be able to buy certain things. So, what is the unemployment rate and all these things? These kind of come under economic factors. The next thing is socio-cultural factors. These purely depend on the people in the locality. That is, what is the population growth rate, what is the age distribution or demographics over there, and um, what are the attitudes and behaviors of those people? Are they habituated to spending a lot? What is their lifestyle? Are they habituated to spending a lot for a current lifestyle or something? And there could also be cultural requirements. That is based on some cultures, they may not be willing to buy products of certain origins or something like that. So all of these also play a huge factor, and these are something that the organization again generally cannot have an influence on. So followed by this, we have technological factors, which could be the amount of technology, or in other words, the advancement of technology in that particular state or city or country. In other words, the amount of R&D that goes into technological advancement, and whether people are aware of these, and everything comes up as a part of technology. Then the next thing is environmental. So environmental factors could be weather, climate, and particular environmental policies, such as certain chemicals cannot be used or certain kind of plastic cannot be used, or so on. So climate change and pressure from a lot of non-profit organizations also play a factor in this, where they tend to make sure that the company's products or the company's methodologies are as eco-friendly as possible. And weather and climate also have a huge factor, and an organization does not have any control on them. It's not like a company which makes particularly ice creams can sell it somewhere in a very cold place like Norway or Sweden way too much, because that is, in terms of weather and climate, is completely not under the control of the organization. And the last part is legal, where there are a lot of laws in particular places which end up either providing a lot of benefits to the organization, or the complete opposite of it. There are a lot of health and safety laws, particularly in Europe, which make sure that every product must be of a minimum standard of quality, and they should not have heavy metals like lead and everything above a certain limit. So these health and safety laws are something every organization must abide by. And then there are a lot of other things, that as discrimination laws, then employment laws. There are huge amount of laws related to employing people and paying minimum wages, as well as making sure that whatever product that you are selling are not patented by any other organization. So all of these play a big factor in legality. So let us look at external analysis of a few organizations now. And we're going to start with a common organization, something we all know. There is a cab company, there is Uber, that it may face ban in certain countries. Followed by this, some other political factors that it could have influenced is minimum wage policies depending on the location. So that is one thing that is based on political factors as well. And the economic factors are making sure that the amount that they're paying to their employees should be enough to cover a lot of things. And what if their employees are facing some issues with the cars or something like that, the company has to come in and take care of the same with respect to monetary benefits for the employees as well. And the fare charges must be affordable by everyone as well. So when it comes to socio-cultural factors, people may, in some locations, be accustomed to just using their own vehicle, using a public transport or something like that. So they have to make sure that the pricing is affordable and they are friendly enough to make sure that based on the socio-cultural factors of the people out there, the people are still willing to give this a chance, willing to give this a try. And technological factors come up to the fact like everyone must have a GPS-enabled smartphone to try this, without which the same will not be able to work at all. So then there are some legal factors such safety for the employees, minimum wage for the employees, and everything. So these are some things that must be looked into. Finally comes environmental factors, making sure that the vehicles pass their particular tests to make sure that the emissions are in the right amount and it's not emitting way too much carbons and so on. So all of these are certain factors that a company like Uber may go through. Similarly, we'll look at one more example right now, that is pest analysis of Coca-Cola. So for this, when it comes to political factors, there are some rules in every policy, such as labor policies and guidelines that the company has to follow, without which they can't market and they can't sell their product, which also consists of regulated items, which means it has to go through FDA approval or FSSAI approval or something like that. Then the economic factors come up as the fact that they should be affordable and they should not make sure that they rip off customers in a certain way as well, and so on. And socio-cultural factors come up as whether the people in that location are willing to buy these products, considering it is too sugary. Does the company need to change their product to fit for the socio-cultural aspects? If the people in a particular location are more health conscious, they may need to come up with a diet or zero sugar version of it. Technology mainly comes up here in manufacturing as well as marketing for them. So they have to look at the technology available in a particular location for the manufacturing as well as marketing as well. And legal processes where the company needs to look at a lot of factors, because what they're manufacturing is a beverage which is an aerated beverage, and their entire secret taste or whatever it is of it is a trade secret. So they have to make sure that their trade secret is protected. They have to also make sure that they abide by the legal rules of the location that they have their manufacturing plant in, and that their drink also comes under health and safety factors, health and safety laws of the location as well. And environmental factors comes up as where the organization may have some wastage or they're consuming too much locally sourced water, which may not be available for the local population anymore, or the fact that they may be using plastic bottles which are not recycled properly and the company are not taking enough steps for it. So these are some aspects that could come up. So this is just a couple of examples we have just taken to look at pestle analysis of an organization to see the kind of factors that they will have around them. Mainly in terms of marketing is what we're going to focus on. But these are essentially the factors that they cannot control. So followed by this, towards any marketing environment, whether based on the examples we just saw, towards any issue or towards any change that may happen in the marketing environment, the company can respond in three ways. The first is uncontrollable. So there are certain things that the company cannot respond to and should just accept. That is, those are uncontrollable marketing environment factors. Things like changing laws in a particular city or in a particular country. So when laws change in a particular country, the organization cannot retrace those laws. They have to abide by them. And then there's something that is proactive change. That means you're looking at the competitors, you're looking at the environment, and you're making some changes before such an environment happens. Like, for example, Apple looked at their environment and saw that there are lots of phones with lots of features, and they wanted to make sure that they stand out. And they didn't want to delay, they wanted to make their product stand out before any other organization brings up something unique. So they started creating new unique features, whether it is with an iPod or iPhone or anything like that. So these are proactive changes. Then there is something which are reactive changes which a company does by looking at situations which have already happened. So things like you guys may have remembered this a lot of years ago. There were some cases that came up. There is some Cadbury chocolates had worms in them. So the moment the company got a hold of this, they immediately changed their marketing strategy, and they hired some people to market their product better, and they immediately made sure that their packaging was different so that there won't be any contamination at all. They made some changes particularly to make sure that they're reacting they're reacting to the situation that happened, and they're making sure that such problem will not be happening again. So these are three ways to react to any marketing environment factors. That is, if you can't change them, they are uncontrollable. You have to work according to them. If you can see something before it happens, you can be proactive and change it. Or if something has happened, you can look back at it and see how it can be rectified and be reactive towards it. So gaining customer insights using marketing information. So this is where getting customer feedback or customer insight regarding your product, whether people like your product, whether people dislike your product, what is the particular reason that they dislike it. If they dislike the marketing, can I change the marketing method? If they dislike the product design, or if they dislike the product quality, can I change that? How can I do my research to change that? All of these are a huge part in any company's growth. So, understanding what customers' feedback are, whether it is about marketing or about the product, and utilizing that information to make sure that the company modifies their approach to make sure that the customer ends up liking their marketing and their product again is something that is pretty huge to make sure that a company stays on top. So let us look at how a company can get such information from customers, because it's not easy. So in short, a customer insight is pretty much getting to know or interpreting what is the trend of the or the behavior of the customers in the view of your product, that is, whether of the quality of your product, of the effectiveness of your product, of the service to the customers, of the sales, whatever it could be. So getting to know whether the customers like your product or not, whether the customers like your service or not, is something huge. So once it is known, the company can then work on whatever the customer does not like, so that the company can still survive and keep in trend. So the thing is, this is important because, as we know, customer insight analysis helps any organization understand who is buying, or which target, or which consumer target, or which customer segment are buying it, which products are they buying, which products are they not buying, why are they buying, what would they require to be changed, and so on. Is it the price, is it the quality, is it certain part of the product that they need to be added, whatever it could be. So all of these are not something that an organization themselves can decide, because the products are made for the customers, and the customers need to make a decision whether they like it or not. If they don't like it, they will make a decision as to why they don't like it, which is something the organization needs to find out. So to build the only way to get customer insight is to make sure that the company has a good customer relationship. Without a good customer relationship, a company can never get the response back from the customers. But the problem is, customer insights are very difficult to obtain. It's not like a company, let's say for example, Apple sells millions of iPhones. They don't generally call each person who has bought an iPhone and ask like, "Hey, you have bought an iPhone. It's been 1 year. How do you like it? Are you facing any issues or something like that?" They don't generally do that. So how do they calculate insights? Because earlier on in older days, there used to be surveys, there used to be questionnaires that companies would go to customers individually, house to house or customer to customer, and get these information. But now it's entirely different. So one example I'm going to give to you guys is something that was called Pinterest. Pinterest is a website where you can collect, bookmark, organize, and share set of images to however you like. So a lot of different kinds of images could be based on education could be based on technology, could be based on anything. So this was something that came out because people wanted to save images from social media. It could be based on Facebook, Twitter, or something like that, and they wanted to save all of them in a particular category and so on. So to do this, Pinterest came up with their own product, with their own website to do this, because they looked at what the customer insight was. So nowadays, for any organization to look at customer insights, they look at artificial intelligence and big data analytics. I'll give you one example of this. The moment you add something to a cart in a website, you want to go buy something in Amazon or Flipkart or something like that, you add it to your cart and then you're like, I don't want to buy it now. Let me figure it out later on. So you just leave it on in the cart. So maybe 1 or 2 hours later, you may get a message or you may get a mail stating that you have left this product in your cart, buy it right now or something like that. Or maybe you may get a message of a similar product as an advertisement later on in some other website. So all of these are parts of artificial intelligence and big data analytics that a lot of companies do for their own marketing. So one more example that you can do is whenever you uninstall an app in your phone, right after that they will send a mail to you stating that you have just uninstalled your app. What made you uninstall it? Do you dislike it? Can we do something else to make sure you're interested in it? Can we provide you an extra offer or something like that? These are some things they may do. So these are something like uninstall tracking, or within app how are you using it to track it and so on. This is how customer insights are obtained. Like for example, if I have a product and let's say it's an app, and by the amount of times a customer spends the time every day in the app, I'll get to know whether they like it or not. If they're liking it, they're spending more time in the app. If they're not, they're not spending more time. So these are some simple things that can be done, but these are just 1 or 2 examples. So just like this, big data analytics and artificial intelligence are used in huge ways to get customer insights. That is, whether a customer is using our product, how many months has it been, should we provide a service for it, or whatever it could be. So all of these can be done through customer relationship management to obtain customer insights. So now that we know what exactly customer insights are and why they are important for our organization and how it is difficult to obtain them as well, let's take a look at this example. You guys see that there are a lot of ads over here. So there are a lot of advertisements over here. Now it's very difficult for a customer to look at all of these and focus on just one advertisement. The moment you look at this image, it's very difficult for you to realize that there are way too many ads. And only when you look at one ad in detail, like let's say the top leftmost one, there is the Little Night Music. You may not have observed it until now. Probably you're observing it only now because you positioned your eyes to look at that. So just like that, nowadays the world isn't like this anymore. Till now, in a magazine or in a street, you had advertisements everywhere. But nowadays, all advertisements are personalized. So whenever you're just searching something on Google, or whenever you're just searching something out based on your past history of searching, whatever you have searched, something close to that will be given to you as a personalized advertisement, a single one, instead of 10, 20 ads which will overwhelm you. So, an example for this is, let's say you're just searching for a football match or something like that today. So tomorrow, once you just open a website, you may get an ad of football shoes or something like that, close to that. So these are some examples of personalized ads where companies look at your searching data, your information to market their own product and sell to you by targeting you individually. So this is often done through social media. That is, if you're liking something on Instagram, liking something on Facebook, you can see something similar is what is going to come up as an ad for you. So another example for this is Netflix. So similar to YouTube as well, where if you're watching a video or a movie in Netflix, you're gonna get similar movies recommended to you. I'm watching a horror movie, I'm gonna get a similar horror movie recommended to me. So the way this happens is something by user generated content. Let's say, for example, a person who watches a particular movie, a horror movie, may be interested in watching one more horror movie, so just watch that as well. So when you watch the first horror movie, Netflix remembers, okay, everyone who has watched this movie, most of them have watched another movie as well. So that movie is going to be recommended to you. Similar to this, whenever you go to Amazon and you're buying a phone, so the first thing that it would recommend along with the phone is a pouch or a screen guard or earphones or something like that. Because that's what people buy together. So that is what it is going to suggest together as well. So these are some ways of personalized marketing towards customers. Instead of providing advertisements of everything, they give a limited set of advertisements marketed only to you based on your search history. So this is something that companies are doing a lot nowadays. Again, by using the concept of big data analytics and artificial intelligence as well. So the next thing we need to know is marketing information systems. So marketing information systems are where information are taken from internal and external sources both towards our company to identify where the company is going wrong in terms of marketing, what could they improve, and what can be done to make better marketing and better sales. So, marketing information system is essentially just an entire collection of separate entities which help us identify first, do people like our current marketing? Is there any problem with the current marketing? Based on that, do the customers have any issues with the products? If the customers have any issues with the product, what can they buy or what new products can we make so that the customer starts liking our products again? What kind of research should we make or what kind of analysis could we make in our marketing so that we get from customer insights an idea like, okay, this is what customers like, this is what customers don't like, this is how I should make my product better. So one simple example for us before going to marketing information system, which will be done in the next session because I still have to provide you guys an assignment before we go on to marketing information system. One example is that whenever you guys go to Amazon website or Flipkart, you guys will see that there will be customer reviews. Nowadays companies do not go to customers and get reviews. They look at what customers post online, whether it could be on Twitter, whether it could be on Facebook, whether it could be on Instagram, it could be on anything. The companies look at what a customer is posting online to figure out whether they like the product or not. So there are a lot of reviews in Amazon where they state that I like this product for this reason or I dislike this product for this particular reason. So based on those reasons, the company will start to realize, okay, this is where the customer doesn't like our product and this is where they do like our product. So this is where we need to improve on and this is where we need to make sure that our product is good. We don't need to work on those aspects. So all of these are done by using customer insights. Understanding and analyzing customer insights to improve an organization is a vital part of it, without which the organization will not exist in the trending market further on. So to do that, how does marketing information systems work and everything? We'll look at this in our next session. Alright guys,